Hi everyone, it's Jerry. This is Game 14, World Chess Championship 2024. We remain level. Ding Liren, with the white pieces this time around, opens with knight f3. And we see, in this one, a reversed Grunfeld defense before a pawn trio can be established. d4 is in there. We get an exchange in the center, and now knight g to e7. So a bit of an awkward post for this guy. The intention, exchange knights and replace the queen knight to challenge this d4 square. In comes c4. Knight takes, queen takes, knight c6, sure enough. And in this position, the queen goes all the way back home. Not the only move white can consider here, going to d3. There is a line allowing the knight to land a fork, pick up the pawn. There's some compensation with further lines of striking. d5, not the way white plays it in this one. More solid approach. Queen d1, in the event of a capture, white's ready to put immediate pressure on the pawn. Not so easy to hang on to that point. The approach here by Gukesh, grab some space. This invasive pawn immediately challenged. And now how to react to this pressure. If the train of thought here is to push or capture, that wouldn't be a good follow-up for black. Pushing that pawn will almost certainly be rounded up, and the capture will just expedite white's development. Bishop will be well posted on e3, functioning well with the light square bishop, exerting pressure on the queen side. The approach in such a position, if you have established an invasive pawn, is to support it one way or the other with e5, or, as is played in the game, bishop c5, very sensible. Some more development. Now from here, Ding went into a bit of a think. Some moves to consider. White does have a queenside majority, so a3 with b4 should certainly run through one's mind. We saw this, we saw the a3 move at least in game 12. Another move could be this queen h5 move. The bishop is, after all, unprotected. There are some sharp lines that stem from the queen h5 move. In this game, we have the tension resolved. Now, how to recapture on d4? If you'd like to, go ahead, pause the video, see how you would recapture on this square. Okay, the best way to recapture is with the bishop, the move played in the game. If you take with the queen, white will duck the queen exchange, and there's a valuable tempo nearby against the queen, one way or the other. Not really a good position for black, exposing the queen like this. The other recapture with the knight would allow this majority to get rolling right away based on a nice tactic. White would have b4 here, and you can't take the pawn because of queen a4 check. If the knight blocks, you first knock out the knight, and then you'd be winning a piece. So best is to take with the bishop, move in the game. Knight c3 follows, and black from here castles, trying to go bishop for knight like this and damage white's structure, not really a good option. The bishop could be deployed, this unopposed bishop can be deployed one way or another, operate really well on either diagonal. Rook b1, coordinating well with this bishop. White will enjoy some queenside pressure, so not a good idea to make this exchange on c3. It is instead castles, knight b5 follows, bishop b6, and from here we have a bit of a slower move. b3 is played. Another approach here is to keep the queens on. Queen to e2. The white queen feels much more comfortable in this environment. She has a wider range of options than the black queen. It's still a struggle for black to complete queenside development. Rook d1 still coming up. Start thinking about the majority push, or even functioning more directly on this d6 square. In this game, we do not have queen to e2, though. After bishop b6, it's b3. And from here, the knight is given a kick back. Ends up going to c3 here. Trying to move in the forward is really just asking for some trouble. There's this bishop d4 move targeting the rook, cutting off the queen's defense of the d6 knight. So it just goes to c3. Not really a whole lot was accomplished there. Knight b5 targeted the bishop, it retreated. A move later, black is doing similar, targeting the knight it has to run in reverse. From here, the bishop returns on d4, bishop b2, e5, very sensible. There's a big fight now over these two squares. They're both holes. The knight, pawn, bishop converge well on that square, and black has a nice grip over d4. So where do we go from here? It is queen to d2. And this bishop is ready to play. It goes to e6 here. Considered best in the computer's eyes is to not allow white to establish a strong knight on d5 so easily. It's suggesting queen a5 interfering with this move. Queen is unprotected on d2. And trying to follow a move like queen a5 with, let's say, rook a to d1 is going to be hit with bishop to g4. A pretty irritating move. You can't counterpunch with f3. This guy is pinned. All right, no queen a5 here. Bishop e6, still very sensible. From here, knight d5. And sharp play coming up, we have b5. So undermining, trying to at least undermine the support of this knight. And at this point, white, in a way, kind of gives up on trying to maybe press for anything in this game. He ends up taking on b5, taking away from the center. If there's still more of a middle game fight remaining in this game, you would maybe go for an exchange on d4, and then follow up with f4. And you see what's happening here. These two knights both occupy excellent outposts, and the pawns that are controlling or supporting these knights are both being undermined. We're in still for a middle game fight at this stage. The way this one plays out after b5, we have a capture away from the center. And the idea is to now take advantage of this unprotected piece. We have a fancy move coming in. Knight to f4. Knight is under fire. Pawn takes knight. Bishop takes knight. See what's happening? We are simplifying into an ending. All major pieces still around. Light square bishops still present. Rook currently under fire. There is a fork here. If there is a side that is better, it would have to be black here. This is a really well-positioned bishop. Constantly observing these two pawns. There are these ideas to maybe one day go hunting for these pawns. Let's get a couple more moves in here. The bishop goes to f3 in this position. Bishop f3 and then b4 is on board. And once that structure is in there, that's where it really starts to show up that this bishop, black's bishop, is better than white's. White pawns fixed on a light square. Black can start dreaming of many scenarios, maybe a bishop-specific ending, where this bishop weasels around and tries to target these pawns, or even a king and pawn ending, where this one pawn restricts two. Those would favor, those are all scenarios which would favor Team Black. Now, the move here is bishop f3. Another approach by white here to eliminate light square bishops is bishop d7. And black cannot avoid the light square bishop exchange. Bishop d7, not played here. Maybe there was some concern, if you go with this, maybe some concern about this pawn being here and maybe a queen going here, but a black pawn on f3 could be rounded up pretty easily, targeted with the rook and the queen. So it ended up just being lost, but the decision in this game is with bishop to f3, still keeping this square opened for the white king. Tension resolved. There is this potential idea here for black to advance the h5 pawn, ideally. If you could get that in and keep the queens on board, that's going to expose the white king. Some checks potentially along the g file. All right, where do we go from here? It is first b4, and now a4. Pretty much saying I'm okay giving up a pawn. Just trying to simplify this into an ending and bring this one to a tiebreak scenario at this stage. So we have the capture on a3. Rook takes. And from here, a flight square for black. Taking on b3. That would be a poison pawn. Rook b1 would be there. And white wins out. The bishop is pinned. So it's not biting on b3. It is g6. Queen d4. And queen b5 is played here. So if you go for a queen exchange at this point, and then capture here, I mean, that's one way black could look to play it, but he's still fighting on. He is up the, essentially, he's going to be up a pawn. He's just trying to find the right moment to go ahead and win this point. He ducks the queen exchange. b4, saying just take the pawn already. All right, black goes for it. We get a queen exchange in there. And by force, we could get another piece off. So rook to a8 is played. A pair of rooks come off, and that's pretty much it. Regarding the piece exchanges, there isn't a way to now force off these two pieces. You want to be a bit careful in this ending. What white should be looking to do here is trade off a pair of rooks or a pair, the bishops. Just the rooks or just the bishops, but not both. Going to a king and pawn ending, black is going to, in plenty of cases, win. So either or, bishop exchange or a rook exchange would be helpful in holding this ending. So let's see the try in this ending. Bishop exchange, ducked. And let's get some moves in here. Whenever there's the offer of a piece exchange, black is avoiding it. And you just have to watch out for some tactics here. There's a nice idea here, or a tempting move, I should say. In this position, f3 is played. If you go with f4 instead, black does not have to take en passant. Black could play king h6 here. This is an instructive continuation. Very easy to go wrong here as white. An idea from this point could be h4, takes, king h5, king h4. That starts to be really scary. You worry about back rank mating ideas if a black king is established on g3. So it is no f4, but rather f3. I feel in general this is sensible. If you trade, rather than play this 3 versus 2, you get a pawn exchange in there. Now there is a downside that you have to be careful about. Your back rank is vulnerable. You're exposing yourself to checks on the first and second rank now that you no longer have a pawn on your second rank. It's f3 in this game. g5 is maintained, takes. And how to hold this draw. Let's see the approach here by Ding. In general, keep the king on a dark square opposite your opponent's bishop. Some checks thrown in. The try here is to get the king around. The rook is bothering the king for a little bit. Not ideal to have the rook on a light square with this guy here. In general, you want the rook and the king on a dark square, but there isn't a trick in this case with the rook on this light square. From here, bishop to a8, bit of an awkward move. Being in the corner here, it's only a one-directional piece. It's far more flexible if it's on a square like c6. It's still functioning in an x direction. All right, in this game, it's bishop to a8. And now Ding's approach is to go ahead and challenge this rook on the second rank with rook to f2. This game has been very level throughout this whole, up until this point right here. move 55, rook to f2, is a great blunder. Black is in fact now winning. And during the live stream, you could tell that Gukesh saw that it was a blunder, and he really started to show his emotions. He is now winning this game, and he executes the winning continuation. He is able to exchange rooks and bishops. This guy is stuck in the corner. This one-directional bishop cannot escape the bishop exchange. The resulting king and pawn ending is winning for black. If I'm to just go back a few moves here, and if we look at the bishop on c6 and we make these similar moves, one piece exchange, the second piece exchange is not forced. This bishop ending will be drawn. But exchanging too much, as it played out in this ending, getting the rooks off and now the bishops off by force, this is a one king and pawn ending. Let's see how. It plays on for a couple more moves, and that is it. After king to e5, Ding Liren resigns. If this played out, let's say king e2, what's the winning way? Not with f4, because after the exchange, white will have opposition, and this will be a drawn king and pawn ending, king g1 from here. The approach would be, if this game continued with king e2, king e4, king d3, eventually the black king will be able to track down the g3 pawn, and of course this is winning. But this one goes no further. We do not see in this 2024 World Chess Championship any tiebreaks. Ding Liren thought he could hold this ending. He slipped up big time. Move 55, rook f2, trading rooks and bishops led to his defeat. And we have now the youngest World Chess Champion ever in Gukesh D. Really exciting time, I imagine, for all Indian fans. This has been a fantastic match, and quite a finish here. Really did not see this one coming. So thank you all again for your support following these games in this championship, and I look forward to covering future championships. Feel free to leave any feedback in the comment section below. Hope you enjoyed this one, and as always, maybe took a thing or two away. That's all for now. Take care.